U-matic.
Beauty seems to play a more important role in our life than we care to admit. Although we know beauty is supposed to be more than just in deep, most of us respond immediately to the kind of attractive person you saw in this fashion magazine. We're not going to pursue the psychological aspects of being attractive. Rather, we're going to explore the cosmetic aspects. I'm Pat Thigpen, and today we're going to go behind the scenes with Hollywood makeup artist Bob King to get some helpful hints on being attractive and makeup. Good to see you again, Bob.
Nice to see you again.
Well, are you going to tell us how we can become this natural-looking, beautiful woman?
Yes, I am.
Now, I want to say one thing at the start. Most of us pick up fashion magazines the way men pick up automotive magazines or sport magazines. We flip through them, we devour them, we hunger for information on how to make ourselves not necessarily the made-up beauty of the 60s and the early 70s, not the Cupid doll look, but the natural beauty. That's striking. And you're going to tell us how we're going to do it? You're going to show us how we're going to do it?
Yes, I'm going to show you how. The first thing in doing any makeup is obviously to analyze the features of the face. As Pat, you want to lean your head back. If you look
now,
at
I'm in your complete hands.
Right. If you look straight in to the face, I think brush the eyebrows up on both sides. And you look straight into the face, you'll notice that on Pat's left side, the cheekbone, the brow is higher than the cheekbone on the right side and the eyebrow on the right side. Basically, what you try to do is balance the features. If one side is higher, you have to lift up the low side to optically appear to be even on both sides.
Well, Bob, how can a woman, say I want to do a new makeup look on myself and I want to analyze my features, because anybody knows who goes into a store there is a glut of cosmetics. I think they're making a fortune in the cosmetic industry. How do I analyze my face? I'm not a pro. I don't have the years of experience that you do and you did working on the Hollywood stars. How do I look at my face objectively?
By taking a mirror that swivels at a 45-degree angle. And when you place it on a table, if you don't happen to have a swivel mirror, you could use a book, pile of books, get a plain mirror and lean it up against it, and have a table that's about average height. A dinner table, a dinner table would do, or a dining room table, and be able to place your elbows on the table for balance, so when you tweeze the eyebrows or apply lipstick, you have a balanced position where the brush does not waver as you apply your lipstick to the face.
Does it matter when you're doing this if you're in natural light or fluorescent light? Should you be in not necessarily bright sunlight, but where's the best spot to do your analyzing?
If you really want to do it right, you should be in daylight, because then the light comes in a surrounding way.
So if you don't have a makeup table or you don't have a boudoir table, you could conceivably put this mirror on, say, your dresser, and that you'd have to be kneeling down.
Well, either kneeling down or sitting down to the level where ultimately your elbows would be able to rest in this position.
Okay.
If you get, and then look into the mirror in this way. Then if you had to work you have a balanced position, and reverse on the other side to go this way.
You avoid shaking.
You avoid trembling and shake, and you get a more direct, even lip line if that's what you're applying. Now, the first step in any makeup, as I told you, is to balance out. The only way I could raise this side is to raise the under arch of the brow. Notice how all of a sudden it goes in here. By removing this amount of hair, I will have raised that eyebrow proportionately to this level. Now this may hurt. You go in with the tip of the tweezer, holding the skin taut, so the tweezed hair does not give with the skin. Excuse me. When you try to work rapidly, you'll find that you're pulling out some of the skin along with it. And unfortunately, by tweezing from underneath, you raise the eyebrow line as you see over here. Over here, the brow is very thick and very heavy. So we take out this portion over here to raise that up slightly higher. Now, what makes the difference in spacing is figure out that the inner corner of the eye should come right over. That would give you this space here. Over here, this portion is moved in. So that portion of the brow must come out. And then underneath, and then you get a similar underarch to the brow. Once this is complete, then you can start your makeup. An eyebrow arch or tweezing should take approximately 15 to 20 minutes by a professional.
Well, Bob, most women don't go to have their eyebrows done professionally. They do it themselves, and I'm victim of my own, mad handiwork, because sometimes I don't know where to start or where to stop, and I end up with one shorter than the other or one thinner than the other. Is there any kind of formula or any kind of hint that you might be able to give us so that we know where the arch should be, or how much a woman should take off from the end, or how much from the inside of the brow?
Right. As I said before, the arching should be done from underneath. As far as spacing, over the inner corner of the eye, or the wing of the nose, right here. Now, obviously, this is grown in quite a bit more than this. And stop and look and analyze back and forth as you tweeze to make sure that you're on track on the horizontal level. As far as the extension, figure out about 45 degrees from the outer corner of the eye. If the brow doesn't go that far, well, then you pencil in to that portion. Some people use as a guide, like the corner of the eye, the wing of the nose, and that would be the extension.
So it's relatively easy just to put a pencil from, like, say, here up.
If you turn like there, that would be the extension. All right. Now we go to the opposite side and start to tweeze. By pulling on the skin, you avoid too much pull on the eyebrow when you do it yourself. Now we'll cut again until we finish this eyebrow arch, and you'll notice the difference in the under arch shape. Over here, because of this part growing down too low, we don't have a distinct underarch. There's shadow here. Makes it look like she's frowning sometimes. As you can see, we stop at this point when we have the correct width over the inner corner of the eye. Now we drop back underneath the arch to raise it the same way as we have here. Do not raise this eyebrow higher than this.
Otherwise you wind up with this weird arch.
Well, you wind up with the same thing you started with, this eyebrow being lower and this higher. So we continue on and work backwards from this point to here. Now, pulling against the grain sometimes is more painful, because if you tweeze this way, although it comes out easier, sometimes you miss the brows that you want to get.
Bob, should women tweezing their eyebrows lubricate their brows or wet them before they tweeze them, or does that make it harder to pull the hairs?
If you put cold cream or any sort of cream on the hair, it makes it slippery. So the brow is not pulled out, rather it is pulled with the tweezer, and the tweezer slips. Now just a few hairs over here, and you'll notice that we now have the underarch even. You'll notice this brow is a little thinner than this, but in penciling later on, we'll make this heavier by putting the liner on the brow above and not use any liner on this side at all. So we've now finished the eyebrow portion of the makeup.
You mean you took my quizzical eyebrow away? My perpetual
Quizzical.
question mark.
The first step in the application of makeup is applying base. The function of base is to take away the various colors of the skin. Pat has a slight amount of sunburn. If she had a deeper tan, a base is not necessary. The moment you get a deep tan, blushes will not show really, neither will a makeup base. But the way you have an in-between where you have pink, tan, light, dark, all the base does is make the skin one even tone. Shake up the base, apply dots to various portions of the face. Don't take too much in one area. And once the dots are on, you work with the base in this fashion, working it up to the hairline first.
Bob, how do you pick out or select the right base for your skin? People tell you to try it on your wrist or try it on your face. You go to a department store and you pick out a base that you think will look right, and you get it home and suddenly you look blue or you look slightly red. It doesn't match at all. How do we pick out the proper base?
By taking a dab and placing it on the forehead. Blend it out. You could see for yourself, is it close to your natural shade of skin or not? Now notice as I stroke, I'm working out, flattening all of the tiny little lanula hair that is on everybody's skin. If you stroke up, you raise it. Same thing in the application of powder. And when you brush it off, everything is down. When you work around the eyes, spread the lid. Get into the crevices everywhere. Make sure everything is smooth. By looking up, Pat, I can pull down under here and get underneath the eyelid area.
So what you're saying is base should be applied to every part of the face, including your lids and your brows. Does that give your eyeshadow a better grasp? Will it act as a foundation for it to help it hold?
The reason for using the base again is to even out the skin tones. It has nothing to do with the shadow that you use. What you do with the shadow is try to recolor the flatness of the base. Notice I'm working underneath the chin, and normally the skin on the nape of the neck is one shade darker than the skin on the face. So you carry the base right down to this area that you see. Now there are different kinds of bases. You have a water base, you have a glycerin or oily base, or you have a pressed powder or pancake sort of base that is used. But if you have any excess and it is an oily base, use a Kleenex like so and blot off any excess that's on the face.
Bob, what type of skin would use a oil-based base as opposed to a non-oil base or an oil-free base?
If you have an oily skin, naturally if you have a dry skin, an oily-based cosmetic is better for that type of skin. If you have an oily skin, then a powder base or water base would be better to use. And once you've blotted off the excess, you're now ready to start with the makeup base proper.
We're under camera lights right now. Will I look natural when I go in daylight, or what will my skin tones look like when I transfer from this type of lighting to, say, fluorescent light and then into daylight? Will I look a little strange? Will I look a little blue under fluorescent lights, or a little green? When I pick out my makeup base, should I be concerned about the type of lighting I'm going to be in?
Of course, if you're going out in the daytime, it's a lighter makeup than when you go in at night. This appears to be a slightly oily-based makeup. So in order to set the oil, you must use cream to cream in application. If you have an oily-based makeup, you should use a cream shadow. If you have a powder-based or dry makeup, then you can use a dry shadow color, a cake eyeshadow. But because this is an oily base, we're going to powder down over this in order to set the makeup where it is. You roll the powder on, reduces the sheen of the oily base. Close your eyes, Pat. Make sure you cover the entire skin area, stretching out all of the lines or crevices of the skin when it's in its normal position. Look up toward the ceiling. Underneath the eye, you set this area. Just look up again. You work with either a puff or a piece of cotton and roll the powder on. Don't rub, roll. You notice the matte look that is coming up as I apply the powder. The more powder you use, the better off you are. Now, if you do not have a powder brush, you can roll off the excess with the puff or the cotton that you're using. But if you should happen to have the powder brush, you don't need one quite as big as this. You just sweep the excess off of the face, stretching the skin as you proceed. getting into the corners, as you see here. Reversing the brush and getting it out of the corner. Getting around the nose. Moving downwards, not up. Always flattening the hair, the tiny lanula hair.
We might just tell our audience that what we're using is not a very expensive brush. It's an artist paintbrush that we picked up in a paint store.
Most brushes that are used by makeup artists are really artist brushes. Basically, many of them are made up of red sable hair.
Do we always want a soft brush, Bob, when we're using the brushes for the face, like the one you just used? When you say sable hair, isn't that a soft
This is not
brush?
sable. This is like camel hair or something of that nature. A sable brush would be in this family,
Okay.
like so.
It's really soft.
Right. Now, we've applied the powder. Now we proceed to apply the shadow. The shadow could be applied with a brush, but if you do that, you must be careful that you don't brush the shadow off onto the surrounding area of the skin. Just look down, Pat. Just look down. The shadow should be heaviest close to the lid line.
Bob, while you're doing that, would you like to just explain why we look down when we put the shadow on? I look up, or I'm looking straight in a mirror.
Well, if you have the mirror at a 45-degree angle, like I said, you could look above the lash line. You can't look above the lash line if you are looking straight ahead. Just look down. Now I stop at this point and go at a 45-degree angle out to the end of the brow, gradually applying more color as I need it. On the other side, you reverse the brush and you start this way. It is better if this were, unfortunately, we don't have a complete set of makeup the way I would normally work. I prefer using a cream shadow to an oily base because they work together. Powder, you can camouflage by powdering down and then using the powder shadow, as you see. The shadow is applied up to where the eyelid, just lift your eyes up, to this point. Over here you can use a highlight in contrast. If you're using a brush, I can no longer use the same brush for a lighter color. So I use my fingertip or a Q-tip, look down again, and apply the highlight on the bone structure. Working from the inner corner out, as you see. You apply with the small finger, you blend with the next finger. Over here, you touch and rub, blend, touch. We run out of powder, we add some more. Here we have the highlight shadowing showing. Now sometimes you might see a triple color where if you look up, Pat, right in the cleft, you could put a brown shade in there just to give a more stylized or fashionable look. Is this a mark of your own? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Again, back to the plum, just look down. We're only going to use two colors. The mauve color on the lid and a light beige on the bone structure above. All right. Next is penciling of the brow. Since Pat's hair is brown, you could either use a black or a slightly softer color as slate, such as here. Make sure that when you work that all of your fingers are clean, and then have a brush, a brow brush, to brush the brow down and then kind of right on the skin. Touch and pull, touch and pull. This brow being lower, we start this first. Then we brush the brow up and see what we've accomplished. It's still not up high enough, so we go in with a deeper color to create more of a peak, which he does not have on this side, but does have on the other. Once you've reached the height of the peak, brush the brow up, and now you continue on down on this side. Ending the pencil line at 45-degree angle from the outer corner of the eye. By brushing these hairs over, you hide the pencil in that fashion. You must be very careful about the color, making sure it doesn't get too deep and too dark. Trying to work at the same time as you're talking is always a problem. Notice you touch and pull. If you're working on your own face, if the elbow is held on the table, you can get the proper balance. You aim the pencil up to the peak, as you see. Coming down the other side, just turn to us. when using pencil, have a very light touch on the skin. Otherwise, it gets too dark very quickly. Now, here's a common mistake. How do you get rid of it? By taking a Kleenex, pressing this skin with the Kleenex, and wiping off that extra dark line or point that I just had there. So you can correct in that manner. The next step would be the, just look down, Pat, would be the application of rouge. With a slightly larger brush, you can apply your rouge or blusher, whatever you want to call it. This cheekbone being higher, we put the rouge in lower down than we would over here. Over here, we make it higher by putting the hot spot up high and gradually blending the edges as you see. If you need more color for definition, pick up more on the brush and bring it up rather high through here. On the other side, we do this side a little lower. The hot spot, instead of being up here, is dropped down to here. And visually, it seems as though this side of the face is lower, because red or deeper colors of blush tend to attract the eye. If you have a square jaw, you can carry the blush on down there to soften and compress the features. From this point on, we can go into the use of the lipstick. For the makeup artists, they use a Chinese character brush. Chinese people write with this sort of a brush. But in application, you work with the side of the brush, not the point, in order to get your lip line. Before starting, we know this side is lower, so start on the low side first, over here. The bow in the center should never exceed the wing of the nose. Should be brought in closer together. You just lay the brush on in this fashion. The lipstick color is much lighter than it has been in the recent past. Fashion has decreed that we work with a much more natural looking lipstick than the deep dark colors of the recent past. We're working with something that blends in with Pat's blouse that she's wearing. Starting from the inner corner with a brush, you lay this brush up in this fashion. You get your approximate line in that way, and then work with the sable brush to apply to make sure you're getting the proper outline. This side being higher, we try to make the bow a little lower here. touch and pull. Coming to the peak and then going into the corner. You can't complete this and that together, so you switch to the other brush. Of course, if you're doing it yourself, you would use this type of brush all the way. The plane of this brush is a little bit broad, so we go back to the other sable brush. Just turn toward me, Pat. Okay, relax. This is probably the most important part of the makeup. Takes the most amount of time. You'll notice that I constantly go back and look straight into the face to find out if I'm balanced on both sides. Just open a bit. Once the mouth is open, the inside is easy to apply. The outline is the problem. Okay. Notice the balance that I maintain in order to keep the hand from shaking and quivering. The light lipstick, it's difficult to see your line, such as this. Just open again. Okay.
Bob, I noticed white lipstick is making a comeback, and I haven't seen that in any fashion magazine since the early 60s when the Greenwich Village look was in. What's the point of white lipstick?
It's a point of a catch light. The light comes down. If you put a little bit of whitening here, it catches the light. That's basically what it's for. It is not used as a complete lip liner. It's just used to catch the light of the overhead lighting and gives a more natural look. Now from here on we use our eyeshadow, or rather mascara. And when I find it,
Bob, I couldn't see. Did you put my lipstick on entirely with the brush?
with two brushes,
Two
right?
brushes. So that gives it a much better line and a much better texture than just slapping on a lip line with a lip pencil and then, using the tube.
It is difficult to get a smooth lip line with just the lipstick itself. With a brush, you could shape it just like an artist does. Now, in the application of mascara, it is best to use a curl lash on the upper lashes only in order to get more of a curve to the point where you'll find that it looks almost false. Unfortunately, I don't happen to have a curl lash with me, but by properly applying the mascara underneath, notice how you keep looking down, Pat. You apply your mascara to the root and then hit the back of the lash in this manner and try to work with more concentration on the ends of the lash line. Look down, Pat. Getting this part to lift and spread out, as you see. By hitting the back of the lashes, as you see me doing here, you're carrying out the color right to the extreme tip ends of the lash. Where are we? Just close your eyes a bit. By concentrating on the upper lash and not coloring the underneath, you're making the eyes appear larger. The moment you circle, you find that the eyes appear smaller because you're confining the color, the darker color around the eyes. The minute you make a circle around anything, you put a limitation on it.
Would that be the disadvantage to putting the eyeliner over here and then also the eyeliner underneath the eye? Would that be circling it and making your eye look narrower? That used to be the style a few years ago, was to just encircle the eye with maybe blue liner underneath and then a thin liquid or pencil liner above.
You can use a pencil above as long as you're wishing to deepen the color there.
But nothing should go underneath the bottom lid.
It makes
to
it
keep it look
appear
wider.
smaller. If you wish, if your eyes are too big and you want to confine them, look up a moment. have to be very careful in working that you don't transfer color.
You don't drop some mascara on your makeup either, like I normally do.
Just look down. That's good. Okay. All right, we need a little bit more mascara. Just look down. The mascara should be heaviest out toward the end of the lash. Constantly stroking and moving the lashes out in this manner. As the mascara dries, just try to hold steady. Just, the client moves, you're always in trouble.
She shouldn't laugh either.
Okay. Now, if you feel like you want to give more accent to the upper eye area, you can line the lid with pencil, which I'm going to do at this point. Just look down again. Just look down. Starting here, what you're doing actually is writing on the lid. Just look down. This used to be called the doe-eyed look. Just look down again. The opposite side, the same thing. You're being very brave, Pat.
I can't even laugh.
Alrighty. Now we'll move Pat up. Just sit up. We don't need this now.
Bob, you told me before that some of the cosmetic styles you see returning now are not really new, but simply a return to the very natural look of the Hollywood stars of the 40s, the stars that you did. The only difference I see is perhaps the lipstick is a little different. What makes you think people tend to go back to that look? And yet the women of the 40s, the Hollywood stars of the 40s, looked really glamorous.
Well, actually, they were using all of the makeup that is being used today, except it was done in a more subtle fashion.
Your own personal opinion. Don't you think, having worked on all of these gorgeous women and having worked with the cosmetic industries over the last several years, that a woman looks her best when she looks her most natural, even if she has a lot of makeup on? It's not necessarily, it's the quality of how she puts it on. Doesn't that make her more attractive to another man?
To have a lot of makeup on? Or?
No, to look natural, even if she spent 4 hours making up.
Of course she looks more attractive. The idea is to look as natural as possible with the makeup. The way to do it is to try to not put too much on in too heavy a fashion. This piece has been bothering me all the way. Just so it doesn't get on your face, Pat, just bend forward. I just wanted to lighten up this area so it's not too heavy. You should be able to see through a bang. Should be a bowl shape. You can
Bob?
fringe out like so.
You're just about finishing up the touches on me, and I'm at a decided disadvantage. I cannot see what I look like, but I see smiles around the studio. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and helping me, as well as the women in the community, to understand what makes an attractive woman attractive and how she can learn the art of applying makeup from a pro. Come back real soon, Bob, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Look very, very good. Your eyes look very bright.
U-matic.